class, STB2043, okay, Advanced Biochemistry, okay, there will be 3 classes, okay, yang akan yang akan bergabung lah. Okay, so the first class, okay, can you see on my screen? Boleh kan?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
Boleh,
we have
Doktor.
3 groups. Okay. So the first group is going to be handled by myself. Okay. Group 2 adalah group daripada Dr. Awang. Okay. Kemudian group 3 adalah group daripada Dr. Simon. Okay. Now since the class is set at one time, itu pada Monday 2 to 5. So we've decided to consolidate lah. Okay. So that we'll teach the same thing to everyone. So jadi kita akan ajarlah sekaligus lah in one group. Alright, now we have 3 lecturers involved. Okay, so kalau kita tengok, if you're going to look at the timetable, okay, kita ada 14 minggu. Okay, so we have week 1 here. Okay, all the way to week 14. Okay, jadi yang bagusnya kelas kita tak ada kena cuti mana-mana lah. So meaning we will not be disrupted. Okay. So the class is going to go like this. I will be taking the first 4 weeks, okay, including yang the last week yang kita tak ada. Okay, we wanted to start, but we feel that probably the class is not ready and everyone is also not ready. So sebab itu minggu pertama we did not start with the class. So there was the registration and there was the housekeeping week. Okay, so our class starts today. Okay, which is on week 2. Okay, so week 2, week 3, week 4. Jadi kalau kamu nampak yang bahagian biru ini in the timetable, okay, I will be the one handling the class. Okay, I'll be giving a lecture lah from 2 to 5. Okay, and then the next 3 weeks, okay, kelas akan dikenalikan oleh Dr. Simon Ngieng. Okay, Dr. Ngieng, okay, yang bahagian warna pink ni. Okay, so week 5, 6 and 7 will be with Dr. Ngieng. Kemudian week 8, okay, we will have no class, but we will use this time slot to have our mid-semester examination, right? Okay, so saya sudah letakkan kat sini ya. So the mid-sem is going to be held on sorry ya, saya rasa mungkin ni saya salah letak. Okay, but it's going to be on this week lah. Okay, minggu yang ke-8. Okay, I will redo this date again. Okay, and then the next 3 weeks, okay, kelas pada minggu ke-9, week 10 and week 11, okay, will be conducted by Prof. Dr. Awang. Okay, jadi dia akan ambil 3 bahagian. Okay, and then on week 12, okay, we will have both our PBL and our practical at the same time. Okay, because everything is going to be online. So probably the first half of the class, I will be giving you briefing on your PBL, and the second half of the class I'll be giving you a briefing on the practical. Jadi itu saya akan ambil, okay, another blue slot here, which is me. Okay, and then on week 13, okay, kita ada satu lagi kelas, but we will have 2 lectures. Okay, probably the first hour and 1 hour and a half, okay, for lecture 12, okay, akan dihandle oleh Dr. Simon, okay, Dr. Ngieng. Okay, and then the next 1 hour and a half, okay, kamu mungkin dia akan suruh kamu keluar balik minum ke apa, dan masuk balik kelas, but probably dia akan suruh kamu masuk kelas Dr. Awang. Okay, Awang will give you dia punya link on his date nantilah. Okay, so whatever it is, I would try my best to remind everyone apa yang perlu akan berlaku lah. Okay, kalau ada perubahan lecturer, kalau ada exam, kalau ada quiz, saya akan beritahu. I will email everyone just like I email you. I think semalam kan, or a few days ago, right? And then on week 14, okay, we will have a reflection and a wrap-up week. Okay, just in case we mungkin like any of us cannot give lecture, mungkin kita akan guna minggu terakhir ni lah untuk have a final lecture with you. Okay, kalau mana tak terplay out, okay, I miss lecture sebab saya sakit ke, Dr. Awang pergi jalan-jalan ke, dia pergi conference or anything, so probably he use the last week lah just to wrap up. Okay, alright. Otherwise, this is our schedule. Okay, so then week 14, week 15, the next 2 or 3 weeks will be your exam week. Okay, jadi itu tak perlu kamu risau lah, there is going to be exam already. Right, now for this class, okay, there are a few component yang akan dinilai. Okay, now the first component that we will assess you on is the quiz and the assignment. Okay, so this assignment is going to be your PBL lah. Okay, so your PBL, we're going to ask you to work in a group of maybe 4 to 5. Okay, we will discuss that later, but it's going to be a group assignment. Okay, so assignment and then the quiz. Okay, we will have 2 quiz. Okay, ada 2 quiz. Okay, the first quiz is going to be on the last week that I'm teaching. So week 4, okay, week 4 will be we will be having your first quiz, okay, okay. So my usual practice to do the quiz is that kita akan buat pada hari Jumaat, okay, between 8 to 11 p.m. Right? So you will attempt sekali, okay, kamu coba sekali dalam masa 30 minit. So okay, so anytime between 8 to 11. So kalau kamu masuk pukul 8, you have until 8:30. If you masuk pukul 10, you have until 10:30, right? Okay, you can only do it once, right? So that will be the first quiz. Okay, again, just before the quiz start ataupun a few days before the quiz, I will email everyone again, okay, just to remind you of the first quiz. Okay, now the second quiz, kita akan adakan second quiz on the 13th week, okay, minggu yang ke-13. Okay, so quiz number 2 is going to be by Dr. Simon. Okay, sama juga, exam management is going to be on Friday that week. Okay, between 8 to 11 malam. Okay, so you can attempt sekali 30 minit. Okay, alright. So I hope everyone is clear with the quiz. So that will be the first component, okay, which is the quiz and the assignment. Okay, so the quiz and the assignment is gonna give you 35% of the marks. Okay, now the next 25% is from your mid-semester examination. Okay, so your mid-sem exam is going to be held pada minggu ke-8. Okay, pada minggu ke-8. Again, I will remind you, okay, of the mid-sem exam. Jadi highly likely kita akan guna ELIP exam nanti lah, alright? So the mid-sem exam will cover lectures 2, okay, daripada minggu kedua, lecture 1 daripada minggu kedua, sorry ya. Okay, lecture 1 all the way to lecture 8D, okay, on lipid. Okay, jadi itu yang akan di cover in the mid-sem, meaning all that you belajar yang saya ajar and everything that is covered by Dr. Simon, okay, itu yang akan dinilai pada mid-sem nanti, right? Okay, so mid-sem is 25%. Okay, and then you will have one lab activity. So the lab report is 10%. Okay, so lab adalah pada minggu yang ke-12. Okay, on the 12th week. Okay, I will give you a briefing. Okay, selalu kita akan buat dalam bentuk video lah. Okay, I will give you briefing. You tengok video. Okay, then we'll give you the data as if you have done it. Okay, since we cannot have it physically, and then after that you have to do lab in a group. Okay, so the lab will give you 10%. Okay, now lastly, yang the chunk of your score for our kursus pada semester ni adalah you're going to have your final exam. Okay, so your final exam is going to give 40% of the overall score. Okay, so yang itu kita tunggulah when is the date is going to be given us to when is the date that is going to be given to our kursus. Okay, tunggu itu sajalah. Okay, so that is on assessment part. Any question? Okay, kalau tak ada bunyi itu maksudnya tak ada soalan lah. So I'll just go on. Alright. Okay, so untuk kursus kita for STB 2043, okay, let me just make this kecil lah supaya kamu nampak the bird's eye view of our kursus. Okay, we will have 5 learning unit. Okay, so learning unit number 1, okay, which is on energy production number 1. Okay, and I will be taking over. Okay, I will cover learning unit 1, which is on energy production 1. Okay, and then learning unit 2, which is energy production 2. Okay, still carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, this, and then learning unit 3, which is on lipid metabolism. This is going to be covered by Dr. Simon. Okay, jadi 3 minggu dia akan cover ni. Then learning unit 4, which is on amino acid metabolism, or basically protein metabolism, okay, is going to be covered by Dr. Awang. Okay, and then the last learning unit, tiga-tiga kita akan masuk lah, all the 3 of us will masuk sikit-sikit. Okay, that will be on the applied biochemistry. Okay, so in the applied, okay, we're going to talk about biochemistry of cancer. Okay, we're not just talking about things in the classroom, okay, things in the lecture, but we'll try to macam look at biochemistry from the biomedical side. Okay, we're looking at cancer. Okay, how biochemistry comes in when we talk about cancer. Okay, then we're going to talk about industrial enzyme, the production of enzyme. Okay, dan lain-lain lagi lah. So these are more benda yang dah applied lah, meaning not just you belajar, but somehow benda yang what happens out there. Okay, so in the industry and in the biomedical field. Okay, right now for our class, STB2043 Advanced Biochemistry, dah nama dia Advanced Biochemistry. Okay, so this is actually an extension of your STB1083 yang kamu pernah ambil tahun lepas. Okay, so tahun lepas kamu ambil tahun lepas kamu ambil Biochemistry, right? So this is an extension. Okay, this is an advanced version. Okay, so how does the knowledge expand? Okay, jadi kalau aku bertanya, banyak ke benda nak belajar biochemistry? Like, you know, some of you probably took chemistry with me in your first year. Okay, like I told you, biochemistry is a very big field. Okay, it's not fair just ajar 1-2 kelas, but in fact biochemistry is a program on its own. Okay, cuma for the biotech student, you ambil 1083 which is biochemistry, and then now you ambil 2043 which is advanced. Okay, so at least you ambil 2 kelas lah. Okay, but sebenarnya it's a program on its own. Okay, so how does advanced biochemistry differ from the one that you took in 1083? Now, kalau kamu ingat when I was teaching you in biochemistry, okay, one of the thing that I tekankan, yang saya tekankan kepada kamu ialah, when you talk about biochemistry, there are three important aspect. Okay, the first aspect is conformational. Okay, conform tu maksudnya structure. Okay, so that was what you did heavily in your first year in 1083. You are looking at the structure of lipid, okay, the glycerol and then the fatty acid. Then you're looking at the structure of the carbohydrate. Okay, when you have mono, di, or polysaccharide, what happens if you have one glucose, or glucose, galactose, sucrose, galactose, you know. So these are structure. You're looking at the structure, macam mana kamu nak lukis, or the rangka, you know, or the C, okay. And then you're looking at amino acid. Okay, the different types of amino acid, you have 23. Okay, where you have the contoh glycine, alanine. Okay, so you're looking at the structure. So that's the first part of biochemistry. Okay, itu yang kamu cover in you cover that a lot in your 1083 punya class. Okay, now then the second part of biochemistry is what we call metabolism. Okay, ataupun pathway. Okay, biological pathway, and that is what we are covering now. Okay, so kamu dah belajar bentuk gula. Okay, you learn how to draw sucrose, you learn how to draw glucose, and hopefully you know lah. Okay, and hopefully kalau saya suruh kamu lukis sekarang, kamu boleh lukis lah. Okay, because that is what you're supposed to know. The structure of DNA, structure of protein, structure of amino acid, structure of lipid, okay, structure of glucose or saccharides. Okay, so you know the structure. Then goes into the second part, which is the metabolism. Okay, dah kamu pandai lukis, sekarang you have to know what happens chemically. Sebab itu nama dia biochemistry. Okay, so you're looking at the pathway. Okay, contohnya lepas you know, when macam tengah hari tadi kamu makan nasi kan. Okay, so you makan nasi, which is starch. Okay, so what happened to the starch in your body? Okay, starch get digested by your amylase. Okay, so what happened? Okay, they becomes mula-mula starch kan is a very long chain, so they're broken. Okay, broken into smaller chain. So brought into your stomach, into your usus, where you have more enzyme that breaks the. I have to make this quiet, Pak. But okay, so you have the starch being broken further in your usus. Okay, so what happens to the starch once broken into the usus? Then they become smaller chain. Okay, ultimately they akan menjadi glucose sahaja. Okay, you know, glucose is what makes the starch. Okay, so then what happens to the glucose? Okay, the glucose get absorbed into your cell. Okay, so what happens when it get absorbed into your cell? Then the glucose undergoes glycolysis. Okay, which is what you covered in the last part of your kursus 1083. Remember when you're talking about glycolysis, Krebs cycle, okay, ETS. Okay, cuma pada when you were in your first year, you belajar sedikit saja. Okay, now if you're going to look at our class, okay, sekarang carbohydrate metabolism. Okay, when you look at carbohydrate metabolism, you are basically looking at that process again, but in a more detailed, in a more detailed manner. Okay, so we already talk about glycolysis. Memang kita akan masuk balik glycolysis, but it's going to be tougher. Why? Because you have to know the enzyme that is involved. Okay, kalau when you are doing your glycolysis in your first year, okay, when you are doing your glycolysis in the first year, okay, you are just looking at glycolysis, apa tu glucose, you put in phosphate, then they become 1-phosphate, biphosphate, lepas tu dia jadi glyceraldehyde, then they become pyruvate. Okay, so just looking at the steps. Now you're going to look at each of the step, what happens in the term of energy change, what happens, what enzyme is involved, what happens bila P tu when is phosphate put in, okay, when is the phosphate taken out, and when is it pecah. So we're going to look at that in a more intricate manner. Okay, so that is already pathway. Okay, so kamu dah tahu in your first year you look at glycolysis, ya, you dah tengok TCA, you have tengok Krebs cycle, you have tengok TS. Okay, so there was only for glucose. Then what about lipid? Nah, lipid pun ada juga. Okay, lipid has its own set of metabolism. Okay, and again when you talk about metabolism, you're not just talking about the starch, kan dia banyak rantaian glucose. You're not just looking at the starch being broken. Okay, but what happen if you have glucose and you want to combine them? Okay, contohnya dalam pembentukan selulose. Okay, that is also metabolism. That is in the second part. Okay, where you have pembentukan gula, and daripada gula, kamu bentuk gula, the gula you cantum untuk membentuk selulose. So you are not just breaking, but you are mencantum. Okay, sama juga dengan lipid. Okay, lipid you metabolize by breaking the lipid structure, and you also need to learn how is fatty acid synthesized. Selain daripada kamu pecahkan dia, then how is it synthesized pula in the cell? If you don't have lipid, okay, what happen? What molecule are being cantum untuk membentuk lipid? Okay, jadi itu yang kita akan cover dari sini lipid. Okay, and then also amino acid. Okay, you all know about amino acids. Apa tu? You cantum amino acid, you get primary structure, secondary structure, okay, and you get tertiary structure, quaternary structure. Now, apa tu? That one mencantum. But what happen if you pecahkan dia pula? Okay, then all the individual amino acid, what happens if you buka dia punya komponen pula, or the R or the H, okay, ataupun kamu gabungkan dengan benda lain. So it gets more complicated, right? So you are not just looking at the structure, now you are playing with the structure. Okay, we're going to talk about how our body either build protein or destroy protein. Okay, we are also going to talk about how our body build, bukan us lah, tumbuhan, how tumbuhan membentuk gula hingga dia menghasilkan selulose, and how our body takes cellulose from our food and breaks it into pyruvate. Okay, so that is where advanced biochemistry comes in. Okay, so meaning it's an extension of what you belajar dulu. Okay, so now if I'm fast, okay, someone please tolong tekan butang cakap doktor slow sikit, okay, cepat sangat, okay, right? So but I hope you understand where I'm trying to go with this Okay, so that is that is the schedule lah. So kita ada carbohydrate metabolism, lipid metabolism, amino acid metabolism, and applied. Okay, alright. So biochemistry. Alright, so I'm gonna go. So kita juga ada bincang tentang pemarkahan. Okay, right. So I'm gonna go to the first. Sorry. So I'm gonna go into the first lecture. Alright. So hari ini we will be covering 2 lecture. Okay. So today, okay, saya akan cover 2 lecture. Okay, on the 18, okay, minggu kedua. Okay, the first lecture yang saya akan cover, hopefully I can finish in 1 hour plus. Okay, introduction to metabolism. Okay, jadi still an extension of yang benda yang kamu belajar tahun dulu lah. Okay, I hope to cover this dalam sejam lebih. Okay, then we break for a while. Okay, lepas tu, then kita balik. Then I'll try to cover what I can in glycolysis. Selalunya saya tak dapat siap. Okay, so there are some parts yang saya akan skip nanti. There are some parts I think that you need to read by yourself. I will skip. Okay, but I will try to cover as clear as I can, as slow as I can. Alright, tapi kena cakap cepat lah juga. Okay, right. So we're going to look at lecture 1, Introduction to Metabolism. Alright. Okay. This is what happens when you have 2 monitors. Sekejap Okay. So, introduction to metabolism. Now, what is metabolism? Okay, ni pun kamu sudah cover lah dulu. Okay. Now, a lot of the time when we talk about metabolism, apa tu, pelajar yang baru ataupun orang-orang yang tak biasalah dengan perkataan ni, dia ingat metabolism is memecah-mecah, mecahkan. You makan nasi, pecah-pecah-pecah, dia jadi glucose. Pecah-pecah-pecah, jadi pyruvate. Okay, now metabolism is not just pecah. Okay, metabolism is also the other way around, which is pencantuman. Okay, contohnya when you buat DNA polymerase. Okay, itu juga adalah metabolism. And when you mencantumkan the DNA fragments ataupun the nucleotides. Okay. Now, metabolism is the process, okay, through which every living system, okay, semua sistem yang hidup dari bakteria, okay, dari virus all the way to human, okay, us lah the more complex being, okay, where all living system they acquire and they use free energy to carry out function, okay, they carry out a reaction, they carry out pathway, okay, and during all this reaction, biomolecules can either be synthesized, okay, contohnya DNA, okay, protein, where you have amino acid bercantum, okay, or it can be degraded, okay. So sama ada synthesized ataupun degraded. Okay, contohnya degraded is when you makan nasi lah. Okay, the starch degraded into sugar, sugar degraded into pyruvate, pyruvate degraded into all the way until you get CO2, okay, carbon dioxide. Okay. Right. So metabolism requires very highly coordinated activity, meaning it's not random. Okay, dia tidak berlaku secara awak. Dia tak kamu makan nasi, then after that things go random. No, there has to be a flow ataupun there has to be a sequence. Okay, it's a sequential event. Okay. And usually when you look at metabolism, okay, hundreds of enzymes are involved. And these hundreds of enzymes, they are organized into discrete pathway, and there are many intermediates. Okay, contohnya, when we look at glycolysis, if you can still remember your glycolysis, okay, you start with glucose. Okay, glucose ada berapa carbon? 6. 6 carbon kan? So 6 carbon, So 6 carbon of glucose. So what happens is that you have, it is highly coordinated, meaning dia ada 10 step, meaning it has to be 10 step. Tak ada dia berlaku 5 step, tak ada dia override 1 step, tak ada dia ulang step 3, step 4. Okay, from step 6 dia pergi step 8. No, that 10 step is discrete, and it has to be the same step in any cell, sel otak, sel kulit, okay, sel jantung. Okay, so hundred of enzyme are organized into discrete pathway. Okay, macam glycolysis, dia punya pathway is very discrete, 10 step. Okay, ada 10 step, and in between those step, okay, dia bermula kan dia you have glucose. Okay, glucose step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dia akan menjadi 3 carbon, okay, which is glyceraldehyde. Okay, it's a 3 carbon sugar. Okay, mula tadi 6 carbon. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dia jadi 3. Then yang 3 ni dia go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Atau 5 ni dia go down 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, by the end of the 10th step, okay, the discrete step, you get pyruvate. Jadi in between this, you get all different intermediates. Okay, intermediates ni maksudnya it's the next. Macam kalau mula-mula kan dia jadi glucose. So the second step is glucose campur dengan fosfat. Okay, you get glucose phosphate. So that's one intermediate. Lepas tu dia akan bentuk 1,2 glucose with phosphate. Lepas tu is another intermediate. Meaning everything that happens in between, okay, is another intermediate. Meaning glucose is the intermediate for glucose glucose phosphate. Then for glucose phosphate is an intermediate for 1,6 biphosphate. Okay, jadi that is what this line is trying to say. Okay, and then metabolism performs 4 basic function. Okay, number 1, it obtains energy for the cell. Okay, a good example again, glycolysis. Okay, so glycolysis happens to produce ATP. Okay, so you produce 2 ATP, meaning untuk menghasilkan energi. Usually when you break stuff, daripada 6 tadi kan, 6 jadi 3 jadi pyruvate. Because you break dia jadi 2, jadi 3 kan. When you break, normally you produce energy. Okay, so you obtain energy. Okay, and then another function for metabolism is that it converts nutrient into macromolecule. So this is the other way around. Okay, kalau glycolysis you break. Okay, this one convert nutrient into macromolecule, maksudnya you cantum. Okay, meaning you probably have 1 glucose, you cantum dengan 1 glucose, then you get what? You get maltose. Okay, maltose dengan maltose, you cantum lagi banyak-banyak, you get cellulose. So meaning you're making macromolecule. Okay, amino acid 1 cantum dengan amino acid 2, you get dipeptide. You cantum dia panjang-panjang lagi, then you get polypeptide. Okay, the polypeptide you process, dia akan jadi protein. Right? So meaning selain pada kamu pecah, dia juga penyambungan. Right? So convert nutrients into macromolecule. And then it assembles macromolecule into cellular structure. Jadi maksudnya, not only are you producing protein, but protein you juga boleh gabung dengan lipid. So you get lipoprotein. Okay? Lipid juga boleh gabung dengan karbohidrat. You get glycolipid. Jadi itulah, it assembles the macromolecule, okay, into cellular structure. Okay, so from there, then you get phospholipid bilayer. Okay, from there you get more, then you get your organelles. Jadi meaning it becomes, you ambil daripada atom, daripada atom, you ambil jadi molecule. Molecule, you bentuk a smaller molecule. Then after that, they become bigger macromolecule, right? Okay, so the last one is that it degrades macromolecule. So basically, macam kamu makan starch tadi lah. When you eat starch, okay, when you makan nasi, mie, those are starch, okay, and they are macromolecule big, okay, so they are degraded, okay, and degraded to scavenge lah, ambil dia punya small component, okay, so usually untuk inilah to obtain energy, right? So four basic function of metabolism, right? Now metabolism, seperti yang saya katakan, it can be membina, it can be also memusnahkan, or it can be cantum, okay, which is anabolism, or it can be catabolism, which is memusnahkan, okay, contohnya starch into glucose, right? Okay, so catabolism, okay, we're going to look at catabolytic type of metabolism. Okay, now catabolism is the degradative pathway. Jadi ini maksudnya dia memecah-pecah. Okay, contohnya kalau kamu makan ayam, okay, so what happens? The protein in the ayam doesn't become your meat, dia tak akan jadi kamu punya muscle. But basically when you eat protein from ayam you eat protein from ikan, dia akan dipecahkan into amino acid. Then it's the amino acid that your body will produce your muscle. Okay, bukan kamu makan ayam jadi ayam. Okay, bukan kamu makan pisang jadi pisang. Okay, you are basically scavenging the element. Okay, you're scavenging the parts from the protein to become your protein. Okay, right? So the catabolism is the degradative lah. Kamu pecahkan. Okay, so you pecahkan biomolekul seperti nucleotide, okay, protein you pecahkan menjadi amino acid. Lipid kamu pecahkan untuk menghasilkan glycerol and fatty acid. Okay, polysaccharide contohnya starch, kamu pecahkan starch, you get glucose. Okay, so that is catabolism, pemecahan yang besar. Okay, so catabolytic pathway, they converge to a few end product. Okay, when you pecahkan starch, you pecahkan, dia akan menjadi oligosaccharide. Okay, when you pecahkan oligosaccharide, dia akan jadi monosaccharide, contohnya glucose. So when you pecahkan glucose, what happens? You get water and you get apa lagi? You get water and you get carbon dioxide. Okay, in the end itulah, lepas dia akan jadi water and carbon dioxide. Itu saja. Okay, sama juga dengan lemak. Lemak, lipid, you have fatty acid, okay, you have the glycerol. So masuk dalam badan kamu, then you pecahkan. Okay, you pecahkan the lipid, so you pecahkan the fatty acid from the glycerol. Okay, then after that what happens? You pecahkan the fatty acid, become a smaller fatty acid. The smaller fatty acid you pecahkan hingga all the way dia akan jadi balik water and CO2. Okay, sama juga dengan protein. Protein, kalau kamu makan protein from a long big chain, dia akan menjadi amino acid. Then you pecahkan amino acid itu. In the end, still going to get water, you're going to get CO2, but because protein dia ada N, okay, dia akan menjadi amonia, which keluar dalam kamu punya air kencing lah. Okay, so meaning all of this, nucleotide, protein, lipid, polysaccharide, when your body is finished with them, when your body is finished processing them, yang tinggal cuma apa? Yang tinggal cuma air, yang tinggal cuma carbon dioxide, yang tinggal cuma ammonia. Okay, that's why it says here, catabolic pathway converge to a few end product, which basically is water, carbon dioxide, or ammonia product. Okay, and in the process of catabolism, energy is produced. Okay, macam contohnya glycolysis lah, 6 carbon, okay, you pecahkan, okay, you produce ATP, right? So that is catabolism. Okay, now the next type of metabolism is anabolism. So anabolism is the other way around. Okay, kalau catabolism dia pecahkan, anabolism dia cantumkan. Okay, contohnya menghasilkan protein daripada amino acid, menghasilkan DNA daripada nukleotide. Okay, so anabolism is biosynthesis of biomolecule, okay, such as nucleotide, protein, lipid, okay, and polysaccharide from simple precursor. Precursor tu maksudnya bahan yang lebih mudah, lebih awal. Contohnya glukos lah. So glukos you cantum, in the end you get polysaccharide. Okay, amino acid you cantum, in the end you get protein. So that is anabolism. Okay, berlawanan dengan catabolism. Okay, so in the process of anabolism you need energy. Okay, during catabolism you produce energy. Jadi itu adalah dia punya pesan. Okay, now if you're going to look further into metabolism, there is another metabolism. Okay, this is called amphibolic pathway. Okay, now amphibolic pathway, okay, dia adalah both catabolism and anabolism. Okay, now a good example of an amphibolic pathway is the Krebs cycle. Okay, now remember, if you remember your Krebs cycle, okay, you start with apa? Pyruvate akan menjadi acetyl CoA, right? Acetyl CoA 2 carbon kan? Then you have your oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate is 4 carbon. So when Krebs cycle start, 4 carbon ni dengan 2 carbon dia akan bercantum. Okay, which is, kalau dia bercantum maksudnya dia adalah anabolism. Okay, untuk menghasilkan citrate. Okay, which is 6 carbon. Okay, now after citrate, ingatlah dia akan turun. Okay, dia akan hilang 1 carbon, which is catabolism, kehilangan 1 carbon. Okay, lepas tu dia akan hilang 1 lagi carbon. Lepas tu dia tinggal 4 carbon. Okay, this 4 carbon, putar, ambil 2, hilang 1, putar, ambil lagi 2, putar. So meaning it is both pembentukan dan juga pemecahan. So Krebs cycle is an example of amphibolic pathway. Okay, dia membina dan along the pathway dia juga memotong. Alright. Okay, so I hope you learn something from that. Okay, so this is just some more example lah. So when you look at catabolism, okay, so catabolism is apa nama tu, makromolekul yang besar, contohnya karbohidrat, fat, protein, to produce smaller molecule. And in the end, you are only left with water. Okay, kalau kamu makan banyak lemak, kalau badan kamu sudah proses dengan betul, tinggal air dengan CO2. Okay, air dengan CO2. Okay, lepas tu tinggal amonia. Okay, selalunya kalau air ni dia akan hilang dalam kencing ataupun peluh. Okay, CO2 hilang dalam bentuk pernafasan. Okay, amonia hilang dalam air kencing or even air peluh. Okay, so by the all this complex macromolecule, kamu makan ayam, makan ikan, makan protein, makan minyak, lemak, okay, in the end tinggal ni sahaja, lepas tu buang. Okay, then your body expel, right? So that is catabolism. And when this happen, you get a lot of energy. Okay, energy dalam bentuk ATP, NADH, NADPH. Okay, so inilah mengeluarkan tenaga. Okay, now when kalau anabolism dia terbalik, it goes up. Okay, ini goes down, ini goes up. So for anabolism, you have smaller molecule, amino acid, saccharide, sugar, okay, fatty acid, okay, glycerol, okay, nitrogenous base pair ataupun nucleotide. Okay, semua ni akan bergabung. Okay, bergabung dia akan membentuk protein, polysaccharide, lipid. Okay, so untuk penggabungan dia perlu tenaga, right? So that is for the next slide. Okay, right, saya cuba pergi cepat. Okay, now if you look at metabolism, okay, selain daripada kita ada 3 jenis tadi ya, anabolism, catabolism, anabolism dengan amphibolic. Okay, metabolism can also be described or divided by how they behave. Okay, it can be secara lurus, linear. Okay, linear. Okay, jadi contoh linear is your glycolysis. Okay, meaning dia akan pergi daripada glukos, dia akan turun pergi membentuk pyruvate. Okay, pyruvate akan membentuk acetyl CoA lah, right? So it can be linear. Okay, it can be cyclic. Cyclic paling contoh yang paling senang adalah the closed loop or the cyclic this is your Krebs cycle. Okay, Krebs cycle ataupun TCA cycle. Okay, karena tadi ya acetyl CoA ni 2 carbon. Okay, oxaloacetate 4 carbon. So 4 campur 2 jadi 6. Citrate is 6. Okay, citrate is 6. Isocitrate is 6. Okay, so from isocitrate untuk membentuk ketoglycerate, okay, daripada 6 tadi, okay, from 6 you lose one carbon, then this is when you hasilkan CO2. Okay, you lose one carbon, then you get alpha ketoglutarate, which is 5 carbon. Daripada 6, hilang 1 jadi 5. Okay, daripada alpha ketoglutarate membentuk succinyl. Okay, you lose another, mula terlima kan, you lose ada carbon. Okay, this membentuk CO2, then you get 4 carbon. So 6, 6, 5, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Okay, so during this time, this is anabolism. All this is catabolism. Yeah, so that is your Krebs cycle, right? Now, another type of metabolism is called spiral. Okay, spiral, dia start di tengah-tengah ni, bukan pada sini. Okay, see the arrow goes like this. Okay, now a spiral type of metabolism is usually a metabolism that extend, memanjang. Okay, contohnya when you membentuk fatty acid. Okay, where this example is example of fatty acid metabolism. Okay, selalunya what happen is that acetyl-CoA dia akan bercantum dengan acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA dia ada 2 carbon. Okay, lepas tu dia akan cantum dengan acetyl-CoA satu lagi. Okay, jadi lepas tu dia cantum 2, dia cantum jadi 6. Then after that, see this is 1 carbon, this is 1 carbon. Kalau dia cantum jadi 4 carbon, 1, 2, 3, 4. Lepas tu dijumpa lagi satu acetyl-CoA, which is 2 kan. So tadi 2 campur 2 you get 4. 4 campur 2 you get 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, dia jumpa lagi 2 dia jadi 8. Okay, and if you itulah kalau kamu tak tahu the formation of fatty acid in your body, okay, of fatty acid in your body is actually itulah when you have too much of acetyl-CoA. Okay, dia akan bercantum. Cantum 2 jadi 4. Cantum 2 jadi 4 all the way until dia menjadi C16. Okay, if you still remember your fatty acid, kan fatty acid C16 ataupun C18. So, sebab itu fatty acid normally nombor carbon dia adalah nombor genap. Okay, sebab dia akan tambah 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, at this point dia tambah 2 sini, at this point dia tambah 2 sini, tambah 2, tambah 2. Daripada 2, ulang balik, tambah jadi 4. Ulang balik jadi 6. Tambah balik jadi 8. Tambah balik jadi 10. Tambah balik jadi 12. Tambah balik jadi 14. Tambah balik jadi 16. Then dia jadi C16. Okay. Dia pun boleh juga tambah lagi 2, dia jadi C18. Then you get your fatty acid. Okay, so this is how your fatty acid is being synthesized. Okay. Now that being said, a lot of your fat sebenarnya bukan a lot lah. I think ialah banyak lah. Okay, banyak of your fat or a larger chunk of your fat actually do not come from the fat that you eat. Okay, ramai orang ingat kalau kamu makan lemak, kamu jadi gemuk. Okay, kalau kamu makan lemak ayam, lemak itik, okay, lemak ikan boleh jugalah. Apa-apa lemak lah, lemak babi lah bagi makan babi. Okay, dan lepas tu semua jadi gemuk. Okay, now that is not so true. You know, a lot of your fat actually comes from your rice. Okay, it actually comes from your polysaccharide. Okay, ingat acetyl-CoA. See this acetyl-CoA? Okay, acetyl-CoA, you have the 6 carbon daripada sugar tadi kan, daripada glucose. So dia akan menjadi pyruvate. Pyruvate dia 3 kan, hilang 1, then you get 2. Okay, this 2 is the acetyl-CoA. Okay, this acetyl-CoA. Now, when you have too much acetyl-CoA, daripada mana? Because you makan banyak sangat gula lah. You makan banyak sangat gula, you makan banyak sangat nasi, you get an excess of acetyl-CoA. Okay, so if your body is your metabolism, if your Krebs cycle is very efficient, so that acetyl-CoA dia akan masuk untuk membentuk Krebs cycle, right? Dia akan membentuk masuk Krebs cycle, then you will lose the fat, you will lose the acetyl-CoA from the inilah, hilang 1 carbon sini CO2, hilang 1 carbon di sini apa CO2. Jadi in the end the 2 carbon of acetyl-CoA dah hilang lah dalam bentuk gas. Okay, now what if your your Krebs cycle is no good? Okay, andai kata kamu lemah metabolism, what happens to your acetyl-CoA? So your acetyl-CoA will be in excess, banyak sangat. So you have a lot of acetyl-CoA in your cell moving around. So what happen? They meet each other. So once they meet each other, dia jadi 4. Then if you have banyak lagi, dia jadi 6. And in the end, dia jadi ini. So basically, the acetyl-CoA from your sugar becomes your fat. Jadi sebab itu kalau kamu tahu orang yang nak hilangkan berat badan, one of the diet now is that the Atkins diet, where you don't, dia cakap jangan makan nasi, jangan makan benda berkarbohidrat. Okay? Why? Because when your body takes less carbohydrate, so you have no excess of acetyl-CoA. So when you don't take lemak, okay, if you're really on a diet, okay, jangan makan lemak lah, because lemak will again somehow menghasilkan lemak. But you makan banyak sangat nasi, you will still get fat. Okay, why? Because ni lah, because it's the excess of acetyl-CoA. Okay, sebab itu kamu cakap kalau itu kamu cakap gajah tak makan lemak pun gemuk juga, ikan paus tak makan lemak pun gemuk juga. Why? Because they have acetyl-CoA. Dari mana? From protein, it becomes acetyl-CoA. From from the carbohydrate they eat, is akan menghasilkan acetyl-CoA. So this acetyl-CoA yang akan menghasilkan lemak. Okay? Lembu pun tak makan lemak kan, lembu pun tak makan daging, tapi lembu gemuk juga. Okay? Babi pun kalau kamu bagi makan babi, kamu bagi dia makan nasi sajakan pun jadi gemuk juga, tapi tak makan lemak. From where? It's the acetyl-CoA. So if you want to lose weight, or if you want to menasihatkan orang supaya lose weight, don't just say, oh makan nasi je, tak ada lemak, kan? Katalah, jangan makan lemak, nanti jadi gemuk. Padahal makan nasi seperiuk. So the nasi seperiuk yang kamu makan itu will produce extra acetyl-CoA, which becomes ni lah. Okay, so this acetyl-CoA bergabung menghasilkan lemak. Okay, alright. So something new lah. Okay, alright. Okay, so nanti tak cukup masa saya. Alright. Okay. So we go on. Okay, so metabolism. Right. So this is just another example of metabolism. Okay. So tu lah tadi ni acetyl-CoA. A good example of acetyl-CoA ni. So acetyl-CoA dia tak semestinya datang daripada gula yang kamu makan. Not only from the excess the excess acetyl-CoA is not just from the sugar. In fact, acetyl-CoA can also come from the lipid. Okay, lemak yang kamu makan akan menjadi acetyl-CoA. Okay, even to starch memang lah, starch, glucose, pyruvate, acetyl-CoA. Okay, even amino acid, if you have in excess of amino acid, they can even be converted into acetyl-CoA. Okay, jadi bagi orang cakap, oh makan protein lah supaya kamu tak cepat gemuk, and that is somehow true. Okay, because it goes into a different metabolic pathway. But again, too much of it will get acetyl-CoA. Okay, and this acetyl-CoA, it's either going into your Krebs cycle, or kalau Krebs cycle kamu tak bagus, dia akan pergi to another pathway. Okay, into bla 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 bla. Ni akan pergi sini lah. Itu fatty acid. Okay, from fatty acid untuk triacylglycerol. So it's the triacylglycerol that becomes lemak dalam badan. Jadi macam saya kan, harus kurang makan nasi. Pandai pandai nak bagi nasihat. Alright, okay. So that's the truth lah. See, that is how metabolism work. Okay, so as long as your body has the bahan mentah, boleh menghasilkan protein. As long as your body has the bahan mentah, boleh menghasilkan lemak. Bukan maksudnya kamu makan lemak jadi gemuk. Makan nasi pun boleh gemuk, because it gives you that building block. Alright, okay. So kita nanti. Okay, right. Now, organism, they show marked similarity in the major metabolic pathway. Jadi maksudnya manusia, kita, the way we process protein, the way we process glucose is the same kalau kamu nak bandingkan dengan ikan, dengan ayam, dengan cacing, dengan serangga, dengan bakteria. Okay, so we share almost the same similarity. Okay, they also undergo glycolysis. Okay, and the glycolysis is the same with us. It's the 10 step, the 10 enzyme, and the 10 intermediates. Okay, and this is just an evidence lah to show that we are actually from the same ancestor. Okay, there are also some significant. Okay, there are also some significant. Okay, contohnya phototroph, macam tumbuhan. Okay, tumbuhan, they can synthesize organic molecule, okay, dengan menggunakan cahaya. Okay, the cahaya is what gives the energy to take the water and carbon dioxide. Water and carbon dioxide kamu gabung. Okay, so you have in water you have what? In water you have O, you have H. Okay, carbon dioxide what you have? You have C and O. So gabung, you will get C6. Which is glucose. Sebab itu plant they produce gula lah. Okay, because they scavenge the H and the O from the water, C and O from the carbon dioxide untuk membentuk glucose, right? So they use light to synthesize, okay, untuk membentuk gula. Okay, now heterotroph macam kita. Okay, kita, most of us, kita the other way around lah. Kita akan makan apa yang dihasilkan oleh tumbuhan. Okay? Sama ada kamu makan gula daripada pokok, okay, ataupun kamu makan selulos kalau kita dapat sintes, kalau macam lembu lah dia makan dalam makan rumput, okay? So dia akan guna this organic molecule, okay, dalam bentuk daun, okay, selulos, cell wall, okay, untuk membentuk benda-benda lain lagi lah, right? Okay, so this is where your CO2, your H2O recycle, okay? Kita keluarkan CO2, kita keluarkan air, okay, dalam bentuk kencing, peluh, okay? Haiwan guna apa yang kita keluarkan, air kita, CO2 yang kita hembus, dia akan bentuk balik gula. The cycle continue lah. So dia bentuk balik gula, kita makan gula. Daripada gula yang kita makan, kita hasilkan CO2 and water. Lepas tu digunakan oleh tumbuhan. So the cycle continues, right? Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the metabolic pathway. Okay, jadi kita dah tahu apa itu metabolism. Okay, metabolism is either pemanjangan ataupun pembentukan ataupun pemecahan. Okay, so that is metabolism. Okay, now let's look at the pathway pula. Okay, some of the pathway. Okay, so from dalam kelas kita, in the next few weeks, you're going to look at a lot of pathway. Okay, with me, you're going to look at carbohydrate pathway. Okay, with Dr. Simon, kamu akan tengok karbohidrat and lipid. Okay, dengan Dr. Awang nanti, kamu akan tengok protein, okay, dalam bentuk amino acid. Okay? Right? Now, a metabolic pathway, okay, contohnya glycolysis, okay, is a series of connected enzyme reaction. Okay, kalau kamu ingatlah, your glycolysis is connected. Daripada glukos membentuk the 3 carbon, membentuk pyruvate. It's connected. Okay? Connected, and all these steps are an enzymatic reaction, okay, and they will produce a specific product, okay. Again, it's a sequential step, okay, and whatever is produced from step 1 to step 2 is a metabolite, okay. Then step 2 pergi step 3 is another metabolite, okay, it's a metabolite, it's another bahan-bahan seterusnya, okay. And each metabolic pathway they are catalyzed by a distinct enzyme. Okay, contohnya from step 1, okay, you have one enzyme, and that enzyme alone. Okay, tak ada enzyme lain yang akan buat itu kecuali dia seorang. Okay, then the second step, another specific enzyme. Okay, so each pathway they are catalyzed by specific enzyme. So this enzyme can be one by one. Maksudnya from 1 to 2, one enzyme. 2 to 3, another enzyme. 3 to 4, another enzyme. Or they can be a multiplex complex. Okay, or it can be a membrane-bound system. Okay, now, okay, saya tunjuk gambar ni ya. Okay, so these are the, if you look at this gambar aja, okay, if you look at this gambar aja, there are 3 types of enzyme here. Okay, one that you see is a distinct enzyme. Okay, this is a distinct enzyme, meaning from E1 to E2, E1 membentuk E2, you have one enzyme. 2 to 3, E4 membentuk enzyme. So these are distinct, one enzyme, satu. Okay. Then some enzyme can be multi-enzyme complex. Contoh dia ini. Okay. Multi-enzyme complex, a good example of a multi-enzyme complex is the one yang membentuk kamu punya lipid. Okay. Now, the process untuk membentuk lipid tadi from acetyl CoA is not by one enzyme. In fact, there are 3 or 4 enzyme dia bergabung. Okay, dia gabung untuk membentuk the next chain. Lepas tu dia gabung untuk membentuk next chain. Okay, meaning it's a complex of enzyme. Okay, yang ini is one enzyme. Okay, contohnya glycolysis, one enzyme to step 1 to step 3. Okay, and then you have a membrane-bound system pun ada. Okay, now example of a membrane-bound system is the one in your ATP production. Okay, yang berada pada mitochondria. Okay, jadi all this kita akan masuk nanti in the next few slides, right? Okay, so you have many types of enzyme, and when you have enzyme complex, okay, either dalam bentuk ini or enzyme complex dalam bentuk membrane, okay, these are called metabolons, right? Okay, so we go on. Okay, now when you look at the human body, there are more than 2,000 metabolic reaction. Okay, in fact, I think there are more than even 10,000. Okay, walaupun kamu duduk sekarang, kamu dengar saja, kamu ingat that there's nothing happening in your body. Sebenarnya, even when you are resting, even when you are doing nothing, your body is actually having a lot of metabolic reaction. Okay, kamu mendengar is some reaction happening there. Even your eyes looking, okay, you have reaction. Mana tahu kamu terluka, pembentukan, the one. pernafasan kamu, what moves your muscle, okay? Kalau kamu menghasilkan DNA, you know, because your cells are membahagi. So you have a lot of reaction, and kalau ikut beribu-ribu, that happens even when you're sitting down now. Kamu bernafas pun, okay? When you're sitting down now, your body is processing your glucose, okay? Dos dah berapa puluh metabolic reaction. Jadi kalau kamu kira lah daripada pembentukan rambut, penjagaan sel kamu, deria kamu, okay, the metabolic processes of the food that you eat, okay, semua akan menghasilkan different metabolic and banyak beribu-ribu sekaligus now, even now when you're sitting down, okay. So in human, the most important metabolic pathway, okay, berlaku dekat ni contohnya, okay, glycolysis, okay, where even now when you're sitting down, okay, glycolysis is happening, okay, you're processing the food that you ate just now, okay. The citric acid cycle, okay, is the continuation of your glycolysis, also happening now, okay. Oxidative phosphorylation that produces your ATP, okay, is happening now, okay. Urea cycle, okay, the disposal of ammonium, okay, in its less toxic form, okay. Talking about kalau kamu ada makan ayam, kalau kamu ada makan protein, okay, it happens now, okay. Kalau kamu makan lemak, jadi semua ini, all this happens now, okay. Jadi just some example lah, you can read all of this lah, okay. And all this happens now, okay. In fact, okay, just one example lah, okay. Kalau kita nak tengok Krebs cycle, jadi ini example for Krebs cycle. Kamu tengok, wih, apa benda tu? Inilah, okay, this is Krebs cycle happening in your cell now, and how many steps, okay. Or cikgu itu kata saya suka, okay, 8-9 step, okay, in the Krebs cycle, okay. Producing one metabolite after another, using different enzyme after another. Okay, so this is your Krebs cycle. Okay, in fact, within the Krebs cycle, you also have what is called the glyoxylate cycle. Okay, kalau pada bacteria, okay, they have different metabolic. Okay, jadi, and it's not just your Krebs cycle. In fact, kalau saya nak lukis, this is the whole thing that happen in your body, and your Krebs cycle is just ni saja. Okay, so you kira lah berapa ribu reaction ni. Okay, in Krebs cycle alone you have about 10 reaction. Okay, this is glycolysis, I think. Somewhere here is your this is the lipid tadi kan, the spiral. Jadi all this happens now. Okay, jadi dia beribu-ribu. Okay, so basically the takeaway message is that, you know, even when you're sitting or doing nothing, you tidur pun actually there are a lot of things happening in your body. Okay, right. Okay, now the 4 principles of metabolic pathway. Okay, metabolic pathway, they are irreversible. Okay, now jadi kalau kamu tengok kan, selalunya kamu nampak kan, when you see apa tu tindak balas macam biology, selalunya ada dia reversible. Now the reaction itself is reversible, but okay, let's say when you look at glycolysis, okay, from step 1 to step 10, okay, step 1, step 2 is reversible, it's possible that it's reversed, okay, tapi from step 1 to step 10 it's not reversible. Okay, maksudnya if step 1 it goes to step 10, but step 10 doesn't go to step 1, okay, meaning it's not reversible. But step 1, step 2 is reversible, meaning it's one reaction. Step 2, step 3 is one reaction, it's reversible. Okay, but from 1 to 5, dia tak boleh berlaku 5 back to 1, no. Yeah, so that is what it means by here. Okay, the metabolic pathway, they are not reversible. Okay, but the reaction, the specific reaction, they are possibly reversible. Okay, so please take note, jangan kamu kenapa ni? I thought it's reversible. No, the reaction, the individual reaction is reversible, but not the entire pathway. Okay, so please take note of that. Okay, now every metabolic pathway has a first committed step. Okay, and then all metabolic pathway, they are regulated usually by enzyme lah. So they're either regulated by enzyme, they are regulated by heat. Okay, they are regulated by hormone. Okay, or they are regulated by keperluan. Okay, meaning if you need more pyruvate, then glycolysis happen. If you don't need pyruvate, then glycolysis probably stop somewhere. Jadi it's regulated. Okay, meaning tak ada, it's not like when you eat glucose or when you eat starch, then glycolysis happen. No. If there is no need to produce pyruvate, glycolysis will not happen. Okay, meaning what happen is that your glucose will probably stop at stage 3, will stop at stage 6, but it will never go to stage 10. Okay, jadi meaning they are regulated. Sometimes by heat, by hormone, okay, by keperluan. Okay, kalau banyak sangat pyruvate, okay, dia takkan. Okay, macam contoh tadi kalau acetyl CoA, when you have too much acetyl CoA, it doesn't automatically goes into your Krebs cycle. Okay, kalau macam tu tak ada orang gemuk. Okay, but because when your Krebs cycle doesn't want to accept anymore, but you have excess of acetyl CoA, it has to go somewhere, right? So meaning these are regulated lah. Okay, and metabolic pathway in eukaryote, they occur in specific cellular location. Okay, contohnya menghasilkan DNA berlaku di mana? Dalam nukleus. Okay, menghasilkan protein berlaku di mana? Jalinan endoplasma kasar. Okay, the metabolism of fat berlaku dekat mana? Smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, jadi the reason why you have a lot of different organelle is that each organelle are responsible for different metabolic pathway. Okay, to process sugar, glucose, it happens in the cytoplasma. Okay, it doesn't happen in the nucleus. It doesn't happen in the mitochondria. Okay, and then after that, to undergo contohnya Krebs cycle. Okay, Krebs cycle does not happen in the cytoplasm. It happens inside the matrix of the mitochondria. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is that you have all the different sorts of organelle because different metabolic pathway happens in different region. Okay, dia tak berlaku semua berlaku dekat mitochondria. No, dia tak berlaku semua berlaku di the cytoplasm. No. Okay, in cytoplasm is only the glycolysis. Okay, and then the end product is pyruvate. So what happened? Then the pyruvate is transported into mitochondria. That is where you have your Krebs cycle. Okay, jadi maksudnya it happens in the different organelle, right? So bukan berlaku di sebarang tempat inside your cell. Okay, all the different macam ETS happens in mitochondria. Okay, pembentukan DNA berlaku dalam mana? Dalam nukleus. Okay, pembentukan DNA does not happens in Golgi apparatus, right? It does not happen in the mitochondria. It only happens in the nucleus, right? So it's all compartmentalized, right? So okay, describe step. Okay, dah kita cakap tadi ya. Okay, now contohnya ni tadilah. Okay, so this is one example of glucose metabolism. Okay, so glucose metabolism. Okay, what happen is that it's a discrete step. Okay, where you have different step. Okay, pathway, and along this pathway you get a little bit of energy, you get a little bit of energy, you get a little bit of energy. Okay, in the end, okay, daripada glucose 6 tadi dia akan bentuk just carbon dioxide and water. Okay, so usually in this different pathway, in this different reaction, so overall kita panggil dia pathway. Individually we call them reaction. Okay, so the individual reaction, okay, is enzyme is always a discrete enzyme. Okay, right? Quite fast, banyak lagi. Okay. Skip this one. Okay, contoh dia tadi kan, remember I was telling you that when you have a metabolic pathway, it is not reversible. Okay, contohnya kalau ni lah, okay, from A untuk membentuk P, okay, okay, this is the first step, second step, okay, fourth step, third step, fourth step, fifth step, okay, it will not happen immediately macam ni kan, daripada A bentuk P bentuk A balik. No, there is always some of the reaction that is not the same. Maybe step 1 reaction dia sama, it's reversible. Okay, step 2 mungkin dia reversible, but sometimes other step dia tak reversible. Okay, so contoh dia ni lah, meaning you have daripada A bentuk E1, then E2 is the another metabolite. Okay, this is E3 is another enzyme produce another metabolite. Okay, until you get pyruvate. Contoh dia pyruvate. Okay, but from pyruvate to untuk menghasilkan glucose balik, it will not 100% be reversible. Some of it yes, but not 100%. Okay, sometimes at one step you need a different enzyme, and you produce a different metabolic, okay, metabolite. Okay. Now, like I said just now, metabolic pathway, they are compartmentalized, meaning different organelle will host different reaction or different pathway. Okay, jadi eukaryotes, they use organelle to compartmentalize metabolic pathway. Okay, so meaning different pathway happens in different metabolite or in in different organelle, and different organelle will have different different pathway. Okay, allowing different metabolic pathway to occur in specific location. Jadi contohnya inilah, okay, like nucleus. Okay, nucleus is where DNA replication occurs. This is where RNA transcription occurs, and this is where RNA is being processed. Okay, and not anywhere else. Tak dalam cytoplasma, tidak berlaku dalam mitochondria. Okay, but only in the nucleus. Now for the rough endoplasmic reticulum, okay, this is where you have protein, okay, processing. So meaning protein processing does not happen elsewhere, but only in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, for smooth endoplasmic reticulum, this is where the lipid and the steroid biosynthesis happen. Okay, contoh-contoh lain lagi lah, lysosome, okay, Golgi apparatus, cytosol. Okay, cytosol is a cytoplasm lah. Okay, the cytoplasm is where your glycolysis happen. Okay, so lepas glycolysis terjadi, you get pyruvate. Okay, so then I will undergo a Krebs cycle. So it will not happen in the cytoplasm. It will happen in the mitochondria. So that product, which is the pyruvate, will be transported to mitochondria. Then dalam mitochondria baru berlaku citric acid cycle. Okay, the mitochondria you have the citric acid cycle. Also happens oxidative phosphorylation at the membrane. Okay, jadi ini adalah some example lah. Alright. Okay. Now for the ATPs, I will skip this one. Okay. I think you can read by yourself lah. Okay. What is ATP? Basically, ATP is what drives the reaction. Okay. I think you can read by yourself. Okay. Now to stop ataupun to close with the first lecture. Okay. Satu lagi benda yang ada kaitan dengan metabolism is thermodynamics. Okay. Now, remember when you have a metabolic pathway, when you have the different steps or the different reaction 1, reaction 2, reaction 3, all the way to reaction 10, glycolysis. Okay, you are not just looking at the changes in the structure. Okay, where you have another metabolite. Then after that, step 2, another metabolite. Okay, you are not just also looking at the enzyme that is involved in the changes of the structure or the changes of the metabolite. But as a biochemist, another thing that you are interested in is the energy that is being produced, or the energy that is being produced, or the energy that is being used. Okay, so thermodynamics is what is being used. Okay, then selalunya from the normal formula this one lah. Okay, kita selalu guna formula ni. Okay, so imagine lah, ataupun katakan you have one reaction, okay, not pathway, reaction, okay, reaction 1, reaction 2, reaction 3, okay, jadi you have one reaction daripada A tambah B, okay, contohnya glucose, A is glucose, okay, campur dengan ATP, okay, menghasilkan ADP dan menghasilkan glucose phosphate. Jadi you have this reaction, okay, the first reaction in contohnya in glycolysis, okay, so you have to know what is the energy being involved. Is energy being produced? Is energy being needed to form that reaction? Jadi selalunya akan guna formula ini. Okay? Jadi this is just, I think this one you already covered. And I remember this is already covered in your first year dulu. Even in your Prayu pun dah cover. So that's why I'm going to go very fast. Okay, just know that this formula is what you need. Okay? Jadi once you have this formula, okay, selalunya kamu akan diberitahu lah, okay, the concentration of glucose berapa, concentration of ATP berapa, okay, untuk menghasilkan the concentration of ADP, menghasilkan glucose 6-phosphate. Jadi kamu dah diberi semua nilai-nilai ni. So you put in lah C, okay, D, okay, dibahagi dengan A, bagi B, dan kamu lonkan dia. Okay, then either you kira daripada itu ataupun sometimes it's given to you dalam data book. Okay, Now the gas constant, gas constant dah panjang sekarang apa tu, Arrhenius kah? Okay, it's already given to you. Okay, the T is always dalam bentuk Kelvin. Okay, suhu bilik selalu kita guna 25 darjah. Campur dengan Kelvin, it becomes, saya lupa dah. Okay, alright. So basically, the amount of energy untuk the first stage of glycolysis is based on your calculation ni tadi lah. Okay, so this is how you use the formula. Now, I'm going to close with this one. Okay, this is one example. Last slide. Okay, now this is one example of pengiraan, okay, yang selalu digunakan dalam exam. Okay, kalau keluar. Okay, so we're gonna ask you to do this lah. Calculate the constant of the reaction at 25. Jadi T tadi ya, T tambah dengan normally Kelvin tadi lah. Okay, 25 tambah 3, tambah, you cari sendiri lah. Okay, then pH. Okay, then the data is given. Okay, this one is based on the textbook. Okay, look at the senarai textbook yang kamu that we recommend to you in your first year. Okay, kalau tak pun I will put it in the elip nanti. Okay, so you're given this. Then from here you kira the nilai, you calculate the KE. And from that you go on to get the delta G naught. Okay, so this is just example. Now if I were you, please try this question. Okay, then you can, then you think you understand or not. Okay, the usage of that formula just now. Okay, so I think itulah dulu ah. We have to go to another lecture. Okay, now we're going to stop for 10 minutes. Okay, just in case you have to go to the toilet. Okay, now untuk kedatangan. Okay, now for attendance. Now can you please write in the chat area. Okay, yeah. Okay. Now in the chat area, can you please firstly put in group, okay, group 1 or group 2 or group 3. Then put in your matrix number, then put your name. Okay, untuk semua. Okay, because I'm not ready to do the QR code yet. Okay, especially yang daripada kumpulan data awang dengan kumpulan data Simon. Okay, you don't log in into my QR. Okay, my student bolehlah QR, nanti I will try to set it up. But untuk data awang dengan Dr. Simon punya group, okay, can you please firstly put your group number, G1, G2 or G3, your matrix number, and your name. Then we'll do the manual attendance for you. Right? So we'll stop for 5 minutes. Okay, I will try to get the apa nama tu? I will try to get the QR, and my group can ambil dia punya tu nanti.